All right, welcome. It is 6:45 on Tuesday, July 27th, and I want to call to order this public hearing on the Ferndale School District 2021-22 budget. Before we begin the public hearing, I want to let everyone know that we have decided to continue to require masks at all of our school board meetings. Based on the increasing number of COVID cases in our state, the prevalence of the new Delta variant, and the number of people, including children, who remain unvaccinated, we believe this is the safest course of action for us to take at this time. And I want to thank everyone in advance for adhering to this requirement. All right, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item, 2.01, is the adoption of the agenda. Since this is a public hearing, since it's been called for one express purpose, which is to receive public comment regarding the district budget, this should be a relatively easy decision. So would you like to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved that we accept the agenda as written. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, great. The revised Code of Washington requires that school boards hold a public hearing each year for the purpose of receiving comments from the public on the following year's budget. According to this law, any person may make a comment for or against any part of the annual budget. The 2021 budget has been posted on the district website. Actually, I think that's the 21-22 budget has been posted on the website for about 2 weeks. This hearing was advertised in advance as well. And in addition, we held a special school board meeting last Wednesday, July 21st, to focus on several financial aspects of district operations. So if you've come this evening to make comments on the budget, we ask 4 things of you. First, please sign in the form that's been provided. Second, please wear your mask. Third, please remember this is a public hearing on the budget, so your comments should be focused on the budget. And we will provide time at the beginning of our 7 o'clock regular business meeting for comments on other topics. And fourth, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Mrs. Larrabee will be our timekeeper and keep everyone on track. So Jackson, has anyone signed up to speak?
Not for this session.
Okay, all right. It appears no one is here to comment on the budget. I'm going to ask Superintendent Mark DeBach to use this time to share with the board any revisions that he's made to the budget format since our last meeting. So Mark.
Thank you, Assistant. Okay.
Did I say superintendent?
You did.
Assistant superintendent.
Go there.
Business and support services.
So this is a very exciting meeting every year for me and my staff since this process started back in January, and we've been working on it since. This has been a really good year in terms of collaboration and getting a lot of input and getting a lot of people involved in the process. And I think the budget and the supporting documents reflects that. So since we did spend a lot of time, specifically this last week, going through the budget in pretty good detail, I'm going to hit a couple of the highlights that were required to talk about and highlight a few of the changes that you asked be made as a result of our meeting last week. So I've conscripted Kelly to help with the presentation. So she's actually driving. So I'll probably give a few cues as we go through. So one of the things that you asked for last week was an explanation of the F-195F, which is the 4-year, at least my interpretation of what you asked for was an explanation for people about what is the purpose of the 4-year forecast, what it is and what it isn't. So as I was writing that, I thought, you know what, it would probably be nice to have a little bit of a description about all of the budget documents in the process. So the first couple of paragraphs are a description about the budget itself and just what it is and what we're required to do. And that encourages folks to actually engage in the documents as well as read the policies so they can become more familiar with the financial operations of the district to help alleviate some of that confusion. So then the part that you asked for, the F-195 annual budget, the F-195F 4-year forecast, gets into a little more detail about what those two documents are and what the differences between those are. And it explains that the F-195F, the 4-year forecast, is just that. It's a forecast based on a bunch of assumptions. So those numbers are not going to be true. They are a what if given a certain set of parameters, and it kind of outlines that in the document there. It talks about the Msoc disclosure and what that is, and then what the citizens budget is. And then it has each of those documents then available on the website. And after the budget is adopted, we will remove the draft, and those will become the actual official budget documents for this year. So hopefully that aligns with what you were thinking and what your expectations were around the narrative around those documents. So if we jump to the Msoc disclosure, this is again, as we talked about last week, we're legally required now to cover this in the budget review process, development, and budget hearing. So we're covering this in the budget hearing. So the Msocs haven't changed since last week. We're still spending more on material supplies and operating costs than the state is allocated. That has always been the case. If that ever isn't the case, we're legally required to explain how we're spending the difference to benefit the students instructional. But I don't see that happening unless something changes in the formula in the curriculum school model. And then the F-195F, again, is the 4-year forecast, and that did not change since last week, since we spoke. So again, it goes through the first line, the first column, the 21-22 is the next year's budget that pulls over from the F-195, and then the rest of those columns are based on the assumptions that we made based on our revenue increasing by IPD, implicit price deflator, which is forecast on OSPI's website, our enrollment going up in each of the next 2 years. Next year or the year after next, continue to increase from the COVID decline, the year after for the increase that we are expecting with the new high school opening, and then it flattens after that. So those are our major assumptions in terms of long-term forecasting. The F-195 is the actual official state document, and this is the certification page that Linda will actually sign after the budget is adopted, and we'll send that to OSPI, and they will review our budget, sign that, and send it back to the district, and that makes our budget actually official with the state, and that's what we have to do by the August 31st deadline. That's the statutory requirement. The citizens budget, as it has come to be known, is the more graphical, user-friendly summary version of the budget that tends to be a little easier to understand, a little easier for people to relate to. And this is one that you asked for clarification on. So last week, the federal and federal special was in place. The ESSER 2 that you'll see on the left-hand column there was called federal special. And it was a general category that we always have for revenue categories from the feds that don't fit our typical. But we called that out since it's one-time funding. So you can see in 2020, 21 budget, that line's blank because we didn't budget any ESSER money. Even though we spent some, we received ESSER 1 and spent it, we did not budget for it. So it's a blank in that line. The next year over, it's $4.5 million and a pretty good increase. And then we highlighted it on the bottom as well. So to make sure that everybody understood what that what the point there is, it says that ESSER 2 funding is a one-time elementary secondary school emergency relief grant. So that money will be earmarked specifically as a short time money that is non-continuing. And then we've got a footnote on one of the program expenditure page that just says the ESSER expenditures are included in the federal special. So, but since it's a major impact on revenue, we called it out here. So hopefully that again gets to kind of what you had envisioned in terms of calling that out, and identifying it.
Yeah, definitely useful years from now, 3 years from now, where, hopefully COVID's in the back mirror and people look at this and it's like, why did we get that?
Yeah.
6 million or $5 million more.
Sure. And then the final document that I handed out, because it doesn't show in the state formats. You've got a handout on your desk that is the revised version of the board's BRC. Hopefully that is more in line. We tried to capture the line items that were missing and more accurately reflect the costs associated with those. And remember also that the money can shift between lines in that budget. So there's a pretty big increase on services for citizen search, and then also the policy updates to account for the potential that there's a major update to policies and requires some contractual service. It doesn't have to be spent there, it doesn't have to be spent. It creates a capacity for cost associated with that object, or if one of the other items goes over, money can be shifted from that category. So hopefully this is more in line with what you had in mind and aligns with what you asked about last week. And then the page on the back of that is just Skyward system that is similar to what you receive on a monthly basis for review in your financials. So if there are any questions, probably have about 30 seconds.
The election costs coming and go. Right.
I don't have any. Oops.
And if we run the levy in February, we'll have what's the cost within this budget.
Right.
I don't have any questions, but what you put on the public website of explaining what these documents are, if there was ever a standing ovation for budget preparation, I would be giving you a standing ovation. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And there might be a standing ovation.
Probably a special award.
Yeah. Do we have that in our budget?
Well,
Well, and thank you, Mark, for separating those out as far as the ESSER funds. I think that makes it clear. Also, if we take those ESSER funds out, then our budget represents, if I calculate roughly right about a 3.5% increase as opposed to, but most of that is funds aimed at making up for the COVID issues.
Oh, I did have one question. You had said for the Msoc disclosure that if we weren't spending as much as the state allocated to us, and explaining that, how common is it in the state of Washington for districts to, do you know?
I heard of it once.
Okay, so it's almost always negative.
I've never heard of it.
It was a very small district and it was a one-time deal.
They don't give us enough.
Right, I just wanted that to be on the record.
Well, given that our deficit is the same as what the difference, spending double, which isn't surprising.
Any other comments? Well, thank you, Mark, for incorporating our requests from last week. That's a lot of work to do in a short period of time, but you really clarified things well. So thank you. So we've reached the end of the public hearing on the Ferndale School District budget for 21-22. So thank you all for your participation. Within a few minutes of adjourning this meeting, I will be calling to order the Ferndale School Board's regular July business meeting. And those of you who are attending virtually, please log out of this meeting and log back into the school board meeting once it's open. During the next meeting, the board will be voting on the 21-22 budget. All right, so I hereby declare the budget hearing adjourned.